Hello, friends. This is your Monday edition of Where You Are. I am Ella Dorsey, and it is a somber Monday because we have another rapidly strengthening hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico. So I'm going to take you through all of the latest. This is a storm that when I got to work at 3 a.m. 8 hours ago was a Category 1 hurricane. It is rapidly strengthened. It will continue to strengthen, now forecast to become a Category 5 hurricane, the first in the Gulf of the season. A significant storm for Florida in many areas that were just hit really hard by Helene. So this is going to be a huge story through the week this week. Here in Georgia, I want to just go ahead and say we will not be impacted by this storm, at least in North Georgia. The South Georgia coast may get a lot of rain, but the biggest impacts and the main impacts by far will be in the state of Florida. Current winds of this storm, 155 miles per hour, so it's only 2 miles per hour below Category 5 hurricane strength, likely to reach Category 5 hurricane strength later today. I've seen a lot of theories, if you will, on social media over the past few days, and I just want to put all of those theories to bed. This is unfortunately basically it's the norm now, okay, that we see these major hurricanes in the Gulf of Mexico. In the last 7 years, we've had 9 major landfalling hurricanes in the Gulf. Harvey, we had Laura, Ida, Zeta, Michael, Helene just a couple weeks ago, Idalia, Ian, and Irma. So Milton will make 10 in the last 7 years. From 1970 to 2000, there were only 10 major landfalling hurricanes. So in that 30-year time period before 2000, there was a 30% chance of a landfalling hurricane in the Gulf. Since 2000, it's now 75% chance of a landfalling hurricane. And NOAA predicted this. NOAA at the beginning of the season, they predicted a hyperactive season. They predicted 17 to 24 named storms. So they think that we're going to have 4 to 7 additional named storms this season. We've had 9 hurricanes, and now Milton is the 4th major hurricane. If you see that L at the top of your screen, that was Hurricane Kirk, which was just downgraded to a post-tropical storm. But we still have Hurricane Leslie in the Atlantic and Milton. So earlier today, for the first time ever on record in the month of October, we had 3 hurricanes in the Atlantic basin at once. And it's because the sea surface temperatures they're so warm this year, okay? Kirk is just going to head to the east as an extratropical low. It's actually going to impact Europe at the end of the week, but it'll just be some heavy rain and wind. Leslie likely to weaken just sitting over land. So those storms are not going to impact us. Again, but Europe is going to see impacts from Kirk, which is not normal for them. Let's talk about Milton, okay? I just wanted to start you out with some background info on the hurricane season. Like I said, when I got to work this morning, y'all, Milton was a Category 1 hurricane with winds of 90 miles per hour. The winds have jumped 65 miles per hour in the last 8 hours. That is rapid intensification of this storm, and it's going to continue to strengthen. I want to note the ocean sea surface temperatures. The Gulf is sitting 3 to 5 degrees above average. You need water temperature. One of the ingredients for hurricane formation is water temperature above 80. In the area where you see Milton is right now, we're sitting at 88 degrees. So that is just fuel adding to this storm. And also you can see the ocean water is really warm all the way over to the Gulf Coast, sitting between 86 and 87 degrees. That's not good news, okay? So this thing is forecast to weaken after becoming a Category 5 hurricane by tonight, okay? Landfall is forecast between Tampa and Sarasota. There are mandatory evacuations out for that area. And there's even going to be a widespread damage path across the state. It's going to be a hurricane as it moves over Orlando, over the Atlantic coast, and there's a widespread flash flood threat. So it's not just the Gulf Coast that is going to see impacts from this storm. Now, I want to show you the most updated track. likely to reach Category 5 hurricane strength tonight and by tomorrow morning. Then the National Hurricane Center thinks it's going to start to weaken a little bit. It has to do this thing. When these storms get this strong, they have to go through what's called an eye wall replacement. The eye wall is the inner wall winds of these storm systems, and they basically can't maintain that type of strength for that long. They have to get weaker, and then they have to start to fuel up again. And what we're praying and hoping for is that eye wall replacement starts tomorrow evening, and it starts to weaken a little bit so that when it makes landfall, it's back down to a Cat 3. 125 mile per hour winds is still a very strong Cat 3. I think there's a high likelihood that this thing is still a Cat 4 when it makes landfall. Again, right now, current landfall is right over Tampa Bay. That would be a worst case scenario for Tampa Bay in terms of storm surge, for Sarasota in terms of storm surge, for Venice in terms of storm surge. The right side of these storms always the strongest. So if the track were to shift a little bit further south, that would mean worse conditions for areas like Fort Myers, but it would mean the wind would come from the basically from land to water in Tampa, and that would push the water essentially out to sea. That would save them from the storm surge threat. So even a wobble of like 15, 20 miles north or south is going to be extremely, extremely important for the storm surge forecast for that area, basically from Tampa down to, I would say, about Venice, which is 20 miles to the south of Sarasota. If this is the track that it takes right over Tampa Bay, that's a worst case scenario for Tampa and, again, for Venice, Sarasota. It's also forecast to move over Orlando, guys. Check that out, as a maybe Cat 2 or strong Cat 1 storm. So even areas far inland are going to see massive impacts from this. And this will be from Wednesday afternoon through Thursday afternoon. By Thursday afternoon, it's back out at sea. So that is the time frame when it will be the worst. I can tell you, I just wanted to show you a couple of the spaghetti models. Some of them are taking that more northerly track, which would be worse for Tampa and Tampa Bay. Some are taking a southerly track, which would be better for Tampa and Tampa Bay, but worse for Fort Myers. We're just going to have to wait and see. That whole area needs to prepare for significant flash flooding, okay? So here, again, is the impacts. As you can see, it stays completely dry here in North Georgia, making landfall sometime Wednesday evening. Significant rain. The highest rainfall totals will be on the north side of this hurricane. So from Tampa to Orlando, over through Jacksonville, Daytona Beach, significant flash flooding likely. The Georgia coast and even the South Carolina coast is going to get on some rain Thursday morning, but then you can see it moves offshore by Thursday afternoon. So again, by far the biggest impacts will be for the state of Florida right now. Oh my gosh. So I'm looking at this with you guys. This is new updated rainfall totals. You can see that Tampa Bay area likely to get 15 inches of rain in the next 5 days. That will be significant for those low-lying areas, especially with the storm surge. Lots of flooding. Even look, Orlando's supposed to get over 10 inches. Even Daytona Beach is supposed to get a foot of rain. So even the Atlantic coast of Florida is going to be highly impacted by this storm. We showed this graphic for us here in Georgia for the flash flood threat 2 days out, and we were under the red. And you guys remember what happened here. There was significant flooding. That's what they're predicting right now from Sarasota to Tampa to Orlando to Daytona Beach up to Jacksonville. As far north as Jacksonville. So, and even St. Simons, I believe, is included in that. So there is going to be a flash flood threat for the Georgia coastline, but especially for a large portion of North Florida. Gainesville is also included in that flash flood threat. In terms of the hurricane watch, which is issued this is just for winds, which is wind speeds above 74 miles per hour. They've now expanded that hurricane watch. It now includes Orlando and areas far inland. Naples, Fort Myers, Sarasota, Tampa, these are all areas that are likely to see winds above 74 miles per hour. So in addition to the storm surge, in addition to the flood threat, they're going to get a lot of damage too, okay? Here's the current potential storm surge. It's the worst, again, from Tampa Bay down through Sarasota, 8 to 12 feet. Think about your roofs. Some of your roofs are 12 feet. So that's a whole first floor, okay? impacted. And this is highly populated areas. Sarasota, Venice Beach, these are all, have hundreds of thousands of people that live in them. So 5 to 10 feet of storm surge south of Sarasota, that's still going to cause a problem. This is just looking like it's going to be really rough, okay? For us here, we have a cold front, a dry cold front that's coming through tonight. It's actually going to keep the hurricane south, and that's the reason we're not going to see any impacts. We're actually going to cool off. And we really won't see, we might get a little cloud cover on Wednesday, but that is going to be about it for us here, okay? But you will notice, guys, that by the end of the week, you're going to need your jackets. We're talking morning lows in the 40s and low 50s. And you'll start to feel that cold air tomorrow morning, but that cooler air really takes over in the mornings by the end of the week. So it's been quite warm, a very warm start to the month of October. By the end of the week, it will feel more like fall, okay? Guys, we have a team of 7 meteorologists. I've said it before. We are bringing you constant updates. The National Hurricane Center is now doing hourly updates. I think that the next one will be at noon, but the next big update will be at 2 p.m. And, of course, just if you have friends or family in the Tampa Bay area, Sarasota, Venice, Fort Myers, you need to be checking in on them. They need to be evacuating. They need to be leaving and paying close attention to the forecast, because depending on where this thing ends up tracking, it's going to have a major impact on the storm surge and the eventual, damage in those cities. It just doesn't look good, guys. This is it's devastating, as a meteorologist. Let me see if I can make myself a little bigger. It's devastating because we, watch these storms. You get a little excited about them because, you're a scientist and you like the science of it. But the reality of it is, Helene, there's still hundreds of people missing in the North Carolina mountains from Helene. We're getting reports that Asheville smells like dead bodies. There are counties where there's tens or hundreds of people, again, still missing. People have lost everything, not even along the coastline. There are still thousands of people in Georgia without power. And now we have another major hurricane coming. Florida does prepare well for these types of storms. I just watched a presser where one of the high-up officials of Florida said, we've been planning since NOAA came out with the hurricane season forecast. We've been preparing for 1, 2, maybe even more major hurricanes here in Florida. So they do have the resources, but it doesn't mean that the damage is going to be any less. So again, Milton, a major Category 4 hurricane, likely to be a Cat 5 later today. I am seeing these questions here. I'm glad that you guys asked these questions. Does Bradenton have a mandatory evacuation order? That's a good question. You can you can just do a quick Google search and find out the evacuation orders. They have them online. Let's see. I think that's about it in terms of the questions. Guys, if you are very interested in this storm, you can follow me on Twitter and on Facebook. I'm reposting all the information as it comes in. But again, this is probably going to be one of the most significant hurricanes that the Tampa Bay area has dealt with in the last half century. All right. I hope you guys have a good day. Enjoy the weather here. Think about our friends in Florida. Check in on your family if you have friends and family there. And of course, I will be back tomorrow. This will be a Weather Where You Are that I do tomorrow and Wednesday. Extensive coverage to come, okay? All right, y'all. Have a good rest of your day.